This is Liz Colburn, host of Invited. Thanks for checking out the following podcast on Public House Media.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Food for Thought podcast. I'm your host, Kylie Thompson. Thanks so much for joining me for another week and another episode. I'm so excited for this one, guys. I literally say that before every episode, but this one's really cool. This one has a new tone to it. It features me as well as former guests, so she's coming back for round 2, Gia Dougherty, and we are talking all about stereotypes and culture surrounding alcohol and eating disorders within college. So this interview has a little bit more of a different tone to it. It's less of a testimonial, and her and I are just talking. I'm trying to bring on a new tone to the Food for Thought podcast, and so I really hope that you guys like it. It is a little bit more conversational, a little bit more, I think, lighthearted despite the topics that we're talking about, because I just feel like that's really important for you guys to see that this stuff is serious, but I want you guys to be able to listen to it in a more digestible way. So I brought on a guest to talk about all of this a little bit more with me. Gia is the bomb. This episode is really great, and I'm really excited to get into it. But before that, it is officially pumpkin spice latte season. I'm drinking one right now, and I actually made it iced with my Coffee Over Cardio tumbler. I'm so obsessed. You guys hear me talk about it all the time. So Coffee Over Cardio is a female-owned coffee brand that focuses on giving women that need a little boost of caffeine, because who does not need that? I know I definitely need it. And you guys can use my coupon code 10KThompson to get 10% off of your order, whether you are buying creamer, merchandise, cold brew tumblers, or coffee grounds or K-cups. Go ahead and plug 10K Thompson into the checkout cart and you will get 10% off of your order. All right, everyone, I am done talking, and now let's get right into it, Gia's interview. All right, everyone, I have Gia Dougherty back here for another episode. What's up, girl?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Just living life. It's a weird time.
It really is. So Gia is a rock star because I messaged her kind of out of the blue because you were talking on Instagram about something that I had shared, and it was about alcohol and eating disorders specifically during your time in college. And it was just a topic that Gia and I really both related on. So this isn't as scripted as my stuff usually is, and I have severe anxiety because I'm such a planner type A, but we're just gonna talk about alcohol and college and just navigating all of that stuff that happens during that time. So yeah, Gia, what college did you go to, or are you still in school?
Yeah, so I'm still in school now. I'm in grad school, so I go to Grandview University in Des Moines, where I just lived this past year. I just moved home to Chicago because I have an internship at Northwestern University here in Evanston. But prior to that, my undergrad was at University of Iowa, which is widely known as the #1 party school in the country, which it was. Mm-hmm. I had a great time in college, but when I saw you post that, and I posted the same thing on my story, it was a post about culture in college with eating disordered comments, disordered eating comments in relation to alcohol. Mm-hmm. And I've heard them a number of times, all the things that it said in that post, and I've said them. I will be wholeheartedly honest. I've always been, and I've said some of them myself within my time in college. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was my education, and I definitely experienced a lot of that going to Iowa, having that experience there.
Yeah, and before I hit record, Gia and I were just talking about our college experience, and we live in different states. So I'm from Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is just, we have shirts that say drink Wisconsinably, and we promote UW-Madison is a huge party school. I was listening to another podcast the other day, and the girl was talking about how she went to UW-Madison. She lives in she's a reality show star now, and she's talking about how much partying those people did. And she's just Wisconsin schools are serious about their drinking. And so yeah, it was just a culture that surrounded me. And I never touched alcohol, never really even was exposed to alcohol before going to college, because my mom doesn't drink, and nobody in my family really drinks. So I didn't know anything about alcohol. And I remember, we talked about this for a little second when we were texting earlier, but like even before going to college, people would warn me, well, don't drink too much because you're going to gain that freshman 15. Yeah. How many times did you hear the phrase freshman 15? Like your first?
Oh,
yeah.
That's all that I heard when I didn't even know what that was until I obviously went to college. But that's all they talk about. And like, I will admit too, for myself now, I don't weigh myself really ever. I talked about this on the last podcast, but I relapsed my senior year of college. And since then, I know that one of my triggers is weighing myself. And so I haven't weighed myself in a very long time. But in college, I used to just like, I would get weighed at physicals, or I'd weigh myself in the summers. And that freshman year, I gained about 15 or 20 pounds. And it was very much, and not only drinking, but it's also like my access to food was like ramen noodle and pasta because it was the cheapest option. And I'm being honest, I didn't really take care of myself my freshman year of college. Yeah. I mean, I joined a sorority. I made all new friends. I was definitely in that freshman year mindset of like, I was focused on school, but not focused enough. And I, just wanted to go out all the time. So I heard it constantly, but then I noticed at the end of my freshman year, I was like, oh, it's real because it happened. Yeah. And like, I just remember, so I don't even think it was like alcohol related because truthfully, like I didn't experiment a lot with like drinking before turning 21, just because, like I said, like alcohol just like wasn't around me growing up. I didn't really know like what I liked, I guess, when it came to alcohol. Before you're turning 21, you're like, those people just drink whatever they can get their hands on, and it doesn't taste good. And I'm not about that. Like, I still can't like drink something that I don't like. I'm like, I need fruity stuff, and like Cosmos are my vice right now. Like I just like need stuff that tastes good. So I wasn't I wasn't really big on drinking prior to turning 21. But like, I remember when I did turn 21, I gained a bunch of weight because I was drinking. And then like and the culture that surrounds alcohol. I mean, like, I really enjoy going out with my girlfriends, ripped to doing that because of COVID, but like I miss going out to a bar and having drinks with my friends and dancing, and then going out to some dive place afterwards and like eating a bunch of fried food. I love that. A lot of my like memories with my girlfriends are surrounding that. And I just like, so I don't even know if it was entirely like alcohol, but it was like I gained weight because of just like learning about this new culture. Right. And that's understandable. I think like that's like, and that was one of the best advice that I was given in treatment by my therapist when I was still in treatment in high school, is that going out to eat with my friends was like my first step of like publicly eating, or like eating in a like sufficient amount of food to fuel my body, and seeing it as like, I'm doing it for the social gathering, not focusing on like what I'm eating. And that's what alcohol, that experience is really related to. Like, you're not focused on what you're doing. You're focused on the time that you're having. But with alcohol comes the drinks you're getting, the 2 a.m. pizza that you go buy when you're done, then the Dunkin' that you get when you're hungover in the morning. Like, it's just what it is.
Yes. And like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I want to I'm going to pull up this thing that we were talking about on Instagram. Yeah. Please hold, guys. We're pulling it up.
Okay. So these are some of the examples of the normalization of eating disorder culture in college. It's normalizing the decision not to eat before you go out to have more fun.
Can we just like talk about these like bullet by bullet?
Yeah. Okay. And these are,
Okay. So guys, this is so unplanned. I'm stressed. Okay. So when it comes to like that one, so I'll just read it again. Normalizing the decision not to go out before, okay. Normalizing the decision to not eat before you go out to have more fun. Like, I can count on like my hands and feet how many times I've done this still.
Yeah. When I saw that, see, I have a hard time because like I'm a title holder, and that's where I have the platform that I do to advocate for what I do for. But I will be always honest and transparent that I do slip up sometimes. And one of the biggest ones, which is why I related to this topic so much, is when it comes to drinking. And like, don't come for me for the fact I'm like, no one like try to like cancel me because I drank before I was 21, but it's college. I obviously did it safely and I was responsible.
Yes. Everyone experiments with that in college. It's
right. But I think with like being a title holder, you're supposed to be like cross your T's, dot your I's. And I'm very much a responsible human, but I like to have fun when I was in college. And like being an only child, I was a very much goody two shoes in high school. I never drank in high school, and I can say that wholeheartedly. So college was my first exposure to drinking. And that line of saying normalizing the decision not to eat before you go out to have more fun, I did. all the time. And especially because it was also normalized like as a financial thing, because I'm like, oh, well, if I don't eat, I buy less drinks because I get drunker faster.
Yep. Yes. And like, I still like, I feel like we talked about this last time we recorded, but like, I like to kind of check myself in regards to like my recovery journey and remind myself that like, I still have work to do. And I read that one and I was like, I am feeling attacked.
I felt like, attacked.
I am 23 years old and like, I still do that.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? And I never thought that was an eating disorder habit because so many other people do it.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriends will be like getting ready to go out and everyone's like, okay, nobody eat because then we're going to be like cheaper. It'll be cheaper for us.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I've worked on, even like before seeing this, like I try to be conscious about it, but like I try to like eat like rice or like pasta before I go out because anyone that knows me, I cannot drink a lot. I've called myself a one drink wonder to so many people because like I literally will have like one mojito and I'm like, woo! Like it's ridiculous. And then if I don't eat, I'm a mess. I literally will have 2 drinks and be like sleeping somewhere. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so like, I don't know why people associate that with having more fun because I've had way more fun the nights that like I eat like a slice of pizza before I go out or something. And like, I have something to soak it up and I'm freaking coherent.
Yeah.
And like my friends don't have to worry that I'm going to be like passed out somewhere, like off of like 2 drinks. Are you kidding me? That's not.
I know. That was us in college, like me and my friend group who I like were my roommates in college are still like my best friends to this day. I will say as we gotten older, like we just got together for our friend's birthday on Saturday. And for the first time ever, we're like, okay, we're going to go out and eat first because we already know we're going to be drinking. So like that was like and I was like, and that was just before I saw this post. So I was like, wow, we have growth. I will say we have grown. But in college, we definitely did not eat before we go out because we wanted money and, you know, we were going to get drunk or that whole thing. It sounds so bad saying it out loud, and I know what it is, but I've done it. So that's why, like, I'll never judge someone for doing it, but, like, I also want to share, like, my experience with doing it that I can promise not eating before going out didn't save me any lbs. It saved me no pounds. Like it's an unhealthy habit that you stick with in college. It's not going to save you anything besides a really bad hangover in the morning is what you're going to have.
For sure. And then, okay, so the second one. Oh, this one hurts too. This one's making me feel attacked. It says normalizing not eating because of the outfit you're wearing. That hurt. At me next time. All right.
At me next time.
I still do that stuff. Like you're wearing like, I don't know, what do I typically go out in? I don't even know because I haven't gone out in so long, but like a crop top and some jeans. You don't want the jeans to be fitting too tight. So you're just like, oh, I'm not going to eat before going out. Are you kidding me?
Yep. Done it. This weekend, I will even like, that's why it's hard. I will stay with the advocacy that I do. I believe that I'm a great advocate for what I do, but I still slip up. And I think that's what makes me a good advocate is I'll be honest and transparent about it. Like I'll continue to say that because I did that this weekend. We were going out and I planned on wearing a bodysuit and a skirt. And that morning I was like, I'm going to eat a little lighter this morning and I'm going to go for a quick jog because I want to look good in my outfit. And I'm not in college. Well, I'm technically still in college, but like I'm not living that college life. But in college, I would do that all the time.
I didn't realize, like I read them before, but like reading them and like analyzing them, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
You're like, I'm attacked.
I'm feeling very attacked right now, but it's fine. Yeah, I feel like I remember, so like no shade at my college friends. I'm still like very good friends with them, but a lot of them are like really naturally very skinny, like tiny little bitties. And they would wear all these little, like, I don't even know how to describe, like lingerie tucked into some jeans type stuff. Like they're going all out, and they would do stuff like that too. They're like, oh, I don't want to bloat. And in my head, I'm like, where? Tell me where. Like, where are you bloating right now? Please explain to me.
Oh my God. I agree so much.
Yeah. And it's so normalized. Like and like people don't even realize that these are like disordered eating tendencies.
That's the thing. And what I shame myself for, what I wasn't good at is like educating my friends when I live with them, because I should have said something. Something that I'm better at now is checking myself and being better advocate with my friends, because I think in college I was actually like kind of like teased for doing pageants by like frat guys, because some of them thought it was super cool. Like my boyfriend now and all of his friends think it's like the coolest thing, and all my friends love it and have always supported me. But like I had a boyfriend in college who all of his friends mocked me. Like, and it was like, so I just felt like I could never, like, I felt like if I ever like corrected someone, they'd be like, oh, why? Because you're a title holder? Like, oh, you advocate for this? Like, I never said it because I was too embarrassed that someone was going to make fun of me. But now that, like, I wish I could look back at like my 19, 20-year-old self and like told her, like, excuse my language, like, who gives a shit? Like, I could have helped a lot of one of my friends. So that's what I do now is and even to this day, are sometimes bad about making comments about myself. Like I'll say sometimes like, oh, I feel super chubby today. I'm like, oh, I look bigger than usual. I'll still say that. I stopped saying that because now I won't let any one of my friends talk worse about themselves or bad about themselves any worse than I do. And I don't allow myself anymore to say anything negative about myself. So I'm going to hold my friends to the same standard that I hold myself. And that's kind of what I do to try to make up for not correcting that behavior in the past. Because I'm sure to my friends, it probably saw like contradicting. All my friends knew what I did. You know what I mean? They knew how strongly I felt about this, but then I would join in on the behavior. So they would be like, well, do you do it or do you not?
For sure. Yeah. And like, I think back to like my college experience, and like you've talked about this as well. I was still pretty sick in my eating disorder while I was in college. And so I think just for me, and like really this normalization of all of this stuff is what's so toxic, is like, you know, and because it was almost like reassuring to me in my mind. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna eat today before I go out because I want to look hot in this outfit. And that's like, that's an eating disorder thought, and that's an eating disorder tendency.
Oh yeah.
But because everyone else is doing it, it's normalized. And I was just a couple hours ago recording with someone who was a pre-professional ballerina. And she was explaining to me like something very similar, obviously in a very different environment, but she was like, oh, the girls are talking about like, all I had today before a 7-hour dance rehearsals an apple. And she's like, well, that's what I did too, but they're doing it too. So like to your mind, you're like, well, it's normal. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what everyone's doing. And so that works here too, because you're like, oh, well, I'm going to go on a run in the morning and eat a salad instead of like something more substantial that'll soak up the alcohol. I'm just going to do this so that I don't bloat and like look cute in my outfit. Which
you're
like,
living off your environment.
Yeah. And just for the record, I guarantee you don't look any different in your outfit if you eat a salad or you eat a burger. I promise. I promise. Like, unless you have like a food allergy and you bloat from like a weird food, but just don't eat that. That's not,
unless it makes you gassy, don't eat it.
Exactly. I'm like, that's not an eating disorder. That's like a food allergy. So it's just, this is blowing my mind right now.
And even I relate to you when you said that you live with roommates who are like really tiny. Like all three of my roommates were size 0, size 2, and a size 2. Granted, don't focus on the number. That's everything that I say. But as someone who was a size 6, it was really hard when they'd ask to borrow my clothes and then I want to borrow their clothes. I already knew that I wasn't going to fit into theirs. So like being surrounded by that only made that mindset. And like, that's no blame to my roommates. Like it was all, you know, my choice, and I love them. Like at the end of the day, I learned from it and it made my college experience what it was. But living with, that's also hard too. Like the statistic in here that 40% of incoming freshmen will already have some sort of struggle with disordered eating. The culture surrounded by drinking in college and females will only heighten that, I think.
For sure. I think we can skip the like normalizing not eating to cancel out calories when you go out, because I feel like that's kind of like what we talked about in the first two. But do you know, I can edit this out if you don't know, what is this pulling trig?
So I also feel really bad about this one. So this is like when you make yourself throw up because you know you're about to, like, you know you're going to get sick. And so you just pull trigs to let it all out because you can feel like that you're about to throw up and you can't do it.
Oh, that's kind of what I thought, but I've never heard that language.
So I know a lot about it because...
Please educate me.
Yeah. So even like my roommates have done this. Like one of my roommates, she was on Accutane. Which is an acne medication that you cannot have any alcohol. So she'd get really sick when she would drink. So she actually really didn't drink a lot. But there were times when she had to pull trig because she was like, I feel so sick and it's not coming up and I have to let it out. So that behavior is directly tied to the actions of someone who has bulimia, of the purging aspect of it. But in college, it's normalized because it's part of just letting out all that you just drank. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think, I didn't know that verbiage, but as you're elaborating on it, I think like that's super normal for people to just be like, or they'll say like, oh, I don't want to feel hungover in the morning, so I'm going to like go make myself throw up. Yeah. Okay. And I remember, so like I primarily only talk about like my like anorexia experience because that was what happened like in the earlier parts of my eating disorder. But in college, and especially my sophomore and junior year, so like when I was turning 21, I had bulimia. I never really sought treatment for it. I did a lot of like independent kind of work and like just worked on myself to try and get out of that. But like, I remember that was something like I would hear girls say that. And like, I made it 3 days without like purging, or like I did whatever. And like, I finally felt good. And then I'd be triggered because somebody would be like, oh, last night, like I didn't want to feel hungover this morning. So I just like made myself throw up, and then I woke up feeling great. And then I think like, well, I should have done that. Like,
and the thing is, the response to it is also what like reiterates that feeling in your head. Cause the response back, like her friends probably weren't like, oh, Jenny, like that, don't do that. That's gross. It was probably like, oh my God, I probably would have done the same thing. Like it's only encouraged. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's so interesting. Cause that was the only one where I was looking at this list and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, I will be wholehearted that I've done it. You know what I mean? And not even, and for myself, my bulimia, binging and purging, I would binge, but my purge was exercising, which now has an actual clinical term. I believe it's orthorexia, where you have an obsession with working out.
Okay.
I believe that's the term. I
think orthorexia is like clean eating.
Or clean
like an
eating.
obsession with clean eating.
So that was my version of, I'd binge a lot, and then I'd go on an excessive like workout purge, and then a clean eating purge, like, or to get it all out. Yeah. And then I would binge again.
Okay.
But I used to do it myself, not even realizing that like what I was doing was so damaging to the eating disorder community.
Right. And I was actually looking up, cause I thought I had heard of this. So that like that pulling trig, or that like drinking alcohol and then purging, that actually has a name too. And that's drunkorexia.
Yes.
Yeah, so I we were talking about it, and I'm like, okay, I need to Google this because I thought I'd heard about that. And it's just like, it's literally bulimia, but you're drinking. Yeah. It's surrounding alcohol. You're not necessarily purging when you're eating, but you're purging when you're drinking.
And you're saving all your calories for alcohol.
Yeah, that was the next one, wasn't it? Oh, no, that was the one above, the normalizing not eating to cancel out the calories when you go out. Yeah. And then, so the one after normalizing vocabulary such as pulling trig is casually bringing up how little you ate today. I don't even think this surrounds drinking. I think this is language that I hear all the time. Like, and I feel like girls are trying to like subtly brag about like, do you see this a lot in pageants where like, I will show up to like my interview at 8:30 in the morning, and someone will be talking about like, oh, I was too nervous to eat. All I could eat is this. And someone else is like, oh, I couldn't eat at all. Or like, I just had coffee, or blah, 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 blah. Like I see this language everywhere.
Yeah. It's literally everywhere. I've heard it girls say in pageants. I might have even said it to just like my mom, like, I'm so nervous. I can only have an apple today. But like what I've learned, and I've said this on one of my episodes of We Need to Talk, that like, I always make sure like before a pageant that I have like a set of people that are going to be able to like my tools to make sure that I don't relapse, I guess is the best way to say. So I'll have like a nutrition coach. I'll have my therapist there, all to make sure that I'm fueling my body enough to be prepared for just stressful moments in my life, because pageants can be stressful. But yeah, so I always have them there because I used to do that. I used to not eat before a pageant because I was so scared. And like, that's normalized in every aspect of, I mean, I hear it not just drinking, not just pageants. I'll hear people like that I work with just be like, oh, like I only had a salad today.
Yes.
Like, boo, it's 5. What do you mean?
Or like I work in a restaurant right now because unemployed with COVID. But in the restaurant business, like it's very normalized to work like 12-hour shifts. So like on Fridays and Saturdays, I used to work open to close. So that's a 10 o'clock shift to 11 p.m. And I would do that with like, there'd be, you know, other servers aren't as tough as me. So they like, there was only a handful of us that would do it. But like we'd all be working all day, and like they just be like, oh, I'm so busy, and it's like 9 p.m. and they're just now eating, and it's like a subtle flex. And it's like, that's not a flex, because how can you even, and maybe it's just because of like the damage that like I've done to my body over the years. But like, if I don't eat something every like couple hours, I get really lightheaded. I get really like dizzy. I get really like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I get really dumb. Like I can't. Yeah. And like, you have to have these social skills to be a server. So like, I'm working all day. Like I'm like, screw my tables. I'm going to eat some cheese and crackers real quick. They can wait a minute for their soup and salad. Like, I'll be right there. But other people just like don't make that a priority. And then they make it this like I said, just like a flex. They're like, oh, well, because I work at Olive Garden. And they'll be like, oh, well, I'm eating like one of the bowls of salad and it's 10 p.m. and like, that's all I ate today. It's like, that's not cute.
Yeah. It's not.
I don't know why we've made it seem that way.
So normalized. Yeah. And I know this, it's probably all over the place right now with this podcast, but I feel like people are going to be able to relate to so many aspects of it, because I think in general, there are so many eating disorder, like tendencies and like verbiage used day to day that aren't called out enough. And it's not about people being too sensitive. It's just about you're normalizing unhealthy behavior. And one of those big ones is not eating because it's seen as like, oh, I don't know. It's like almost condoned. Like, oh, I didn't really eat today, but like I'm doing okay. Like, no, you should have yourself fueled already for 3 meals.
Right. Or like, I used to do this a lot. I've been serving since I was 16. And so I was serving throughout like my time of being in recovery for my eating disorder. And in college, again, like I would work these like super long shifts, and I can't believe that I didn't do more damage to my body. It's amazing how our bodies work. But like my thing used to be, I would work this open to close shift and have nothing but a sugar-free Red Bull. One of the like big guys. Like, yeah. And like, I would drink that like throughout the day. But it wasn't like I crushed it in like 30 minutes or anything, but like that would be what I would consume in my day. And I said, and I hear people say this too, and it's kind of related to this, like discussing what you ate. But like bubbly drinks or like carbonated drinks, like make your body feel full. Yeah. When you're not. And like when you're restricting, like having that in your stomach does make you feel very like, I would get like uncomfortably full. Yeah. Because you've got like all these bubbles. Like it's not sustenance. It's like bubbly crap in your stomach. And I just remember always being like, I would do it too. I'd be like, oh, well, it's like 8 p.m. and I just finished my Red Bull, and like, that's all I'm going to have today.
That's all I had today. Yeah. Like also, it's also damaging for us too. Like that statistic said, like so many people are coming out of either clinically diagnosed eating disorders or like body struggles into college. And then you're just immersed in that setting. And I don't know speaking of drinks, I don't know if you've ever done this either, but when I was preparing for Miss Iowa 2018, that was the last year of swimsuit. I actually cut out alcohol as a whole for about a month. Just because like I wanted to be like just a cleaner mindset, cleaner state. I just like didn't want to be drinking all the time. I had so much going on that I didn't want to ever be hungover for anything. But I cut out alcohol for a month and it was great. And I felt so much healthier. But the month prior to that, I switched to only having vodka waters. And that was like something all my friends and I did. We're like, oh my God, that's so much healthier than the vodka lemonade we always get. We're just going to do vodka waters now with lime juice. And in our head, we're like, it's disgusting. It's not good. We pretended that we like it. I knew none of those girls. I know my friends did not like it because neither did I. But even now we still do it like as if we're mature and it's a more sophisticated drink, but it's just because it's what we had all throughout the end of college. But I don't know if you've ever related to that, but that was something that we did. We would transition to vodka water because there's no calorie count in what we're mixing it with.
I've never tried it because like I said, I don't
recommend it.
I can't. I have one friend. So like something my listeners might not know about me is that I love bowling. I bowl like 3 times a week. I have my own bowling ball. I love it. But like there's a lot of alcohol surrounding the bowling alley. And I go with like a lot of work friends. My boyfriend's the one that got me into it. And like all of his friends, we all go bowling specifically on Thursdays.
And like there's like Thirsty Thursday. So sometimes like pre-COVID people would like go out after, because the bowling alley was open till like 1, and then we'd all go out for a couple drinks. But there's one friend in particular, I know he listens to this. Thomas, if you're listening, this is you. But he claims he likes vodka water. He'll do like vodka water with like lemon. No, he wanted me to try one day. I was like, no, but like he's going to be a guest on the podcast eventually, but he has struggled with like body image, and like he was overweight, lost a lot of weight. And like, I don't know too much about his journey, but like, I don't think he did it in necessarily the healthiest way. But he was talking to me about like, well, I want a beer, but I'm going to have a vodka water because there's like no carbs. And it's just like, I am all for making healthy choices. And like one thing I focus on if I'm drinking is like, I can't have a lot of sugar. It makes me feel like garbage. I like wake up the next morning and my stomach is like disgusting. And so like, I'll do like sugar-free something, like sugar substitutes, whatever. But like, if you're drinking, I'm sorry, but like it's not going to be healthy.
No. So
I think we need to cut out this mindset of like, this is the healthier option, because really how many like fractions of calories are you counting out of your diet? Like, I don't know. I'm like,
no, I agree. No, I agree. I've never thought about it that way, because I think what should be like, there should just be a common understanding that with drinking, you're not going to have a healthy option. So you might as well just have a good time and order what the hell you want, because the healthier option is just going to either cause you more damage or get you more junk, and you're going to feel more sick tomorrow, because that means that you're not going to eat before you're going to go out. I'm going to order a damn vodka water, and I'm going to feel terrible tomorrow. Like, and I even notice now a lot of me and my friends are slowly starting to see each other again, because the past month, because the things started to open up here, and I started to feel like pretty gross because I've been drinking a lot, like every weekend with my friends, like gross, like internally, because I'm very transparent about the medical conditions that I've had prior or after my eating disorder. But one of them is a lot of GI issues. Like I have an array of GI problems now that I still have to take medication for now. And you know, I had a colonoscopy and endoscopy before both my parents. Like, it was terrible, awful. And one of the things I cannot have anymore is alcohol. So I have it like in college. This was now after college. This is something that is new of like this year. But I like can't really have alcohol really anymore. Because it physically makes me sick. There's so much acid in my stomach from my eating disorder that I cannot consume alcohol, because alcohol is very acidic. So it makes me very, very sick. But with drinking more again, I even caught myself, I don't know if you ever catch those thoughts in your head. This was a couple of days ago. I caught a eating disorder thought in my head that was like, oh, you really need to cut back on the drinking. Like I feel really bloated. Like I'm not really happy right now. And I have a red light, green light mechanism that I learned in treatment, that like stopping the thought where it is, processing it, and then moving forward. And that's what I had to do. But mind you, those alcohol culture tendencies were like ingrained in my mind from college.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like, I struggle with like kind of that acknowledging what an eating disorder thought is. 'Cause I think I just mentally get so like, I overanalyze everything. I overthink everything. And so like, I guess like, I don't know if other people experience this too, but I'll wake up from a night of drinking and like feel really depressed. So like that's part of why I don't drink a lot. It's just like, even when I was in college and like first starting to drink, I thought that I had depression and like wanted to go to therapy. And I went to one therapy session, and my therapist was like, oh, let's discuss like why you're feeling this way, what triggers you. And it was literally just alcohol. And she said that was like normal. So I did cut back significantly, but now I struggle with like, if I wake up and I'm like feeling kind of like bluesy or whatever, like I am feeling bloated, I struggle to like, I don't know if it's my eating disorder saying like, oh, this isn't an eating disorder thought. This is what's actually healthy for you, is to not drink. Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of battled that. And so like, I'll feel bloated. And like, if you're bloated, I feel like something's irritating. You know what I mean? Like, something's irritating you. Something's making your stomach like uncomfortable. And so like my eating disorder will be like, oh, stop doing this. And then I'll combat that with like, well, everything's fine in moderation. Like if I go out to like hang out with my friends, like that's a social activity. It's something that I like, and there's drinking involved. So like I'm 23, it's legal, it's fun, like whatever. But then I feel like my eating, it's just like this never ending dialogue between like the two voices, which like makes me But then my eating disorders voice is like, well, no, because it's bad for you anyway. So like you can go out and have like cranberry juice instead of like vodka cranberry or whatever, like just cut out that one thing and you'll probably feel better. And like, I just have a really hard time figuring out what's that voice and what's like my rational voice.
Yeah, it's hard. I say that those who have eating disorders or recovered are the strongest humans you'll ever meet, because they have to like combat two lifestyles to try to merge it into one healthy one. And even for years to like after, like how many years has it been since you and I have technically like clinically been recovered and released,
right?
But we still combat these thoughts all the time. And that's why this like topic, I was so excited that you asked about, because this topic in itself is a topic that I have to talk myself through a lot. You know, it's summertime, especially going out with my friends. Like this is a dialogue that I have to change in my own mind still.
And I think in the summer, like going back to one of these, like the, like not eating or like eating less to make up for like the outfit that you're going to wear. It's summertime, girls, like some girls don't wear a lot going out. Like, so like, you're just like showing more skin. Whereas like once October hits, I'm wearing turtlenecks everywhere.
Yeah.
So like nobody can see if I blow. So I feel like I almost take worse care of my body in the summer. Like, because there's swimsuits and shorts and crop tops and all this stuff. Whereas like in the winter, I feel like I'm a little bit more tentative to my body's needs and wants versus like just doing whatever to make sure that I like look good.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. To go along with it too, like it is summer. Swimsuits for me was like a really triggering thing for me. I don't like, this was the first summer that I actually bought swimsuits in years. I usually hated shopping for swimsuits. Like that was the one time that I'm the most exposed and I was very self-conscious about. And this was the first summer that I just wasn't. And I don't know if that has to do with like the time that I am in recovery, how much like I this past year I put a lot of effort into like my mindset and being more confident. But for myself, it's and a lot of people, it's hard because these unhealthy like tendencies are all around you, especially during the summer when like your whole body's exposed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and all your friends are the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, I was thinking specifically, so one social distancing activity I've been doing throughout quarantine is like, there's a river a little bit out of Green Bay that like you can go floating down. So my friends and I went floating, but we made our, like, because you all, like, hook together so you can float together. And instead of going in, like, a circle, we made all of ours, like, in a line 6 feet apart. So, like, we were still social distance. Yeah, it was super fun. But, like, this goes in with, like, all of this. So, like, I was going to be drinking, so I was like, well, I shouldn't eat before. I was in a swimsuit, so I was like, well, I'm not going to eat before. And then once I'm even in the swimsuit on the river floating down, I'm like, okay, well, I had one White Claw, so that's 100 calories. And I had this, so that's another 100. And I had this. And like, eventually I was like, even though I like wanted to keep drinking, because this is like a 6-hour thing. You like float for a long time. And I was very much like, my school really taught like UTA 1 or 2 an hour. And so I was always like, UTA, like being like trying to pretend like I was drinking like 1 an hour for like alcohol reasons, when in reality it was my eating disorder just being like, no, like, because then that's only going to be this many calories versus if you had 3 in an hour. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I caught myself that day specifically, like putting on the swimsuit and being like I knew you're in the hot sun, you're drinking all day, you're like, you should eat something before you do this. And I just didn't, because I was like, well, I don't want to like eat and then not look good in my swimsuit, because you're sitting the whole time. And like one of my biggest insecure areas is my stomach. And I was like, if I eat, I was making myself like half of a bagel. I was like, if I eat this half of a bagel, I'm going to be so bloated. They're going to see my little tummy rolls and it's not going to be cute. So I'm just not going to eat it. And I remember I came home from tubing and I had left that half of a bagel on the counter, and I came back and I was like, I was fine. I wasn't drunk or anything, but I looked at it and I was mad. I was like, I really just like left that sitting there and didn't eat it and wasted it because I wanted to look skinny in my swimsuit when my friends would not have cared if they could see my stomach roll or like whatever.
Yeah. To flip it with like a positive, because this is a problem that I used to have, is I was really self-conscious around like certain people in college, like certain guys and certain group of girls. I was really self-conscious about my weight. I was really like self-conscious in college for a lot of reasons. Like I will say that something definitely attributed to it was the relationship that I was in college wasn't a healthy one. And so I was, he'll never hear it, so I could care less, but I was cheated on. So multiple times. And that definitely shaped like the relationship that I had with my body, because instead of comparing myself to the other girls of being like, oh, they're smarter than me, or, oh, they're good athletes, I was like, oh, they're all skinnier than I am. That was my first go-to. And so that definitely shaped the relationship that I had with my body in college for a long time. And that's when the drinking aspect comes in of like, okay, well, I'm just not going to eat before I go out to look good in this. But the way that I shape it now is only surrounding myself around people that like are fully accepting of who I am and people that I'm really comfortable around. So like this summer I've been going in like being in a swimsuit more times than I ever been in a summer. And this would be really triggering for me if I look back on like college, because I've been around, my boyfriend, all my boyfriend's friends, all of my friends, all of their friends' friends. Like I'm around all these different people, so distancing still, but I'm around all these different people that would have been really triggering for me. But I changed like the narrative of my friends who I surround myself with. And like, these are all people who I'm super confident and comfortable around. And I've never thought about what I look like in a swimsuit one time, because I was so like comfortable of the people that I was with. And I didn't have that in college. Yeah. And I think that's why I definitely have a healthier relationship with my image in a swimsuit this summer, because of the people that I'm with. And I think that's key. Like even with the whole like alcohol narrative in college, you have to surround yourself with friends that aren't going to make it worse. Like you have to be surrounded around people who are not gonna, like there was one on here, and I've never done this and I've never had a friend do this because I wouldn't be friends with them, but one on there is like, I can unlock my phone, but
is it the wishing you had an eating disorder?
Yeah, or making others feel bad for not working out, or commenting on other people's food or plates. Like none of my friends have ever done that. I've never done that to anyone. I would never. But if you have friends that do that, like, see ya. They are only going to make your mindset worse. Like anyone that is a part of that type of narrative in your life should not be, without a shadow of a doubt.
And I actually this is like something that I don't talk about too much, but like there's one situation, and like I've cut out some friends that I made in college for like some reasons similar to this, because my freshman year specifically, like alcohol aside, I just kind of found myself in a pretty toxic friend group. They just like, they were all those like very naturally skinny but could eat whatever they want girls. Some of them went to the gym, but most of them like weren't doing any of that. And like I've had to work really hard to look the way that I do, whether it's like reminding myself to eat or like going to the gym or whatever it is. Like I've worked really hard to have the body that I have, and they just like, in my head, they looked better than me, and they looked better than me naturally. And so I was like very envious of that. But like they all knew like pretty quickly, like I was very open about, I was a title holder when I went into college. So like when they found out that, they like asked me about it. And so they knew that I promoted like healthy lifestyle, eating disorder awareness, and advocacy. And when I went to college my freshman year, I really, for the first time, was like learning how to eat and learning how to eat on my own, because when I was in high school, I'd come home and have a home cooked dinner. And like, I was only responsible for 2 out of the 3 meals of the day. And one of them was provided by my high school. And like, so it's just like, I was learning how to eat and like what foods I liked, and like really how to fuel my body on my own. And so like with some of that, like I talked a little bit about like some of the weight that I gained my freshman year of college. Some of that was because I was learning what foods I liked, and like eating those foods and being like, oh my God, this tastes so good. And like, I just remember there was one time we were all in the cafeteria in my school. Shout out to St. Norbert College cafeteria. We're ranked #1 in the Midwest. The food there is so good.
Oh, good.
So good.
I didn't have that.
Oh my, that's what I hear a lot of people in college say, that their food's trash. I'm like, my school might be super expensive, but they feed us well. The food was so good. When I got rid of my meal plan, I was so sad, because I was like, I can't have this food anymore. It's like, what the heck? And so like, I don't even remember what it was, but they had one dessert that they would make like once a month. It was some like apple pie, apple crisp kind of situation. Loved it. Tasted like one that my mom used to make. So I went into the caf. I didn't even get any of the actual meal. I just got like the dessert. And I would like use one of my calf swipes to go in there and get it. Cause I was like, heck yes, bring it on. And I had already eaten something before I went into the calf, like my dinner. And I just went in there for something sweet. And all my friends were like eating their little salads and whatever. I was sitting there with this like apple crisp. And one of them said something. And she was like, you just came in here for that? She's like, you don't want to eat anything healthy?
Oh, hell no.
And so like, granted, I was 18, and like I might not seem like it in like these interactions, but I'm very like shy I'm very like, if someone says something to me, I'm not confrontational. I'm like I'm very much a people pleaser. And so then I just remember I felt like absolute garbage the rest of the day, and that like stuck in my voice. And then anytime like I went to the calf with her, I ate certain foods. And it was just like, it was very toxic, and it was something that I didn't
That breaks my heart.
It was so sad. And like, it was at a time where I was really, really learning to enjoy food again. And so it was just like, it took me back a couple of steps. And then actually the same friend, I don't even know, we barely talked about it, but this was one thing that like another friend heard it, and she was like, hang on. So like, it was Halloween my freshman year, and like I went out sober, but all of my friends had been drinking. And one of them got really drunk and said something about like me being overweight. And like she said it in such passing, and she was really drunk and she was walking home. I was helping her walk home. She said something about me being like she was this frail little thing, and I was like carrying her, and she said something about me being like overweight. And like that's how come I could carry her, because I wasn't skinny. And one of my other girlfriends was walking behind us, and I like looked at her and was like, it's like, great, I'm like helping this girl, and she's gonna sit here and be rude to me. But then I never brought it up, but my friend did to her, and she was like, do you even remember saying this to her? She was like, you literally called our friend fat. Like, are you kidding me? She's like,
oh, I would have.
I didn't even know what to do. I was like stunned. I was like, I remember I stopped walking, and I was like, oh. And part of me was like, I could just leave you here. Like, it's like, that wouldn't be nice, but I could have just like stopped walking you home and let you figure it out and like left your butt. But I didn't.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
It was, honestly, talked about it in therapy a lot. Love it.
Yeah, I would too.
It was one of those things that like really shaped like how I saw myself my freshman year of college, especially because Halloween's pretty early on. Like, you don't know these girls very well. And so
Halloween, like, is everyone dresses in like little clothes? You know what I mean?
And yeah, I just remember like, I just knew within those couple interactions, I was like, these are not people I'm going to have in my life forever. Like,
no.
And so just like getting the strength to like cut those people out if they're talking to you that way. That's the point of that story. It's just like being able to like acknowledge a toxic relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship or whatever, and being like, you're not good to have in my circle because this is how you make me feel. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's
nothing wrong with that. And like, this is just like in relation to college, because I feel like that's kind of where this episode is going. But like, you'll meet a lot of people in college. Like, that's my advice to anyone, is you're going to meet a lot of people, and don't be scared to cut anyone out, because I promise you that there's people that I met freshman, sophomore year of college that I've never talked to again, and I'm perfectly fine. But like, you can't tolerate having people like that in your life, because it's damaging. Like, I had this past year, for the most part, I've never had anyone ever comment on my weight. If anything, the only thing that someone has ever said to me was in high school, and he was a guy friend. And again, I'm not confrontational. I grew up as like the guy's girl. All of my friends in high school were like, you know, all my guy best friends.
Me too.
I can take ish, I can throw it back, and I'm like, I'll have that conversation. Like, I don't care. Like, if you want to try to be funny. But in high school, I lost a lot of weight. Not people realizing that it was because that was the summer that I had an eating disorder and I was in treatment. And a guy friend of mine told me, wow, Gia, you look really skinny. I used to be able to like roll you down the hallways last year. That took a long time for me to get through with therapy. And I thought I was never going to have anyone. The point of the story is never ever comment on someone's weight, whether you're complimenting them on the way that they look. You could be complimenting them on negative behavior such as an eating disorder. But in society, it's so normalized that we talk about like celebrities' bodies so much. Like, poor Lizzo is like just absolutely dragged through the dirt, but she never asks. She's not out here being a fitness model. That's not what she's promoting. She's promoting her music. But everyone decided to bring her body into the conversation as if she's trying to be this like health guru. No one knows what she's doing behind the scenes to take care of her body. You can't assume by looking at her that she's just living unhealthily, but we normalize that it's okay to talk about people. And for me, I had a guy friend in like February comment on my body when I wasn't around in front of 5 different guys, my boyfriend and another girl. And that was the first time that anyone had ever talked about my body in like 5 years. And it was during National Eating Disorder Awareness Week.
Oh my gosh.
This past year. And I was absolutely triggered. Like, I went home, like, as long as I am in recovery, I went home and I cried. We were all out, like, getting drinks, and my apartment was down the road, and I said that I need to go plug in my phone to put in the charger, and I went back and I cried. because no one should ever comment on a weight, but I think for me, a male's commenting on a female's figure hurts a lot more. And the comment was that they were driving to the restaurant and I live downtown, so I was walking to meet them, and someone asked, oh, where's Gia? And my boyfriend said, oh, she'll be here soon. She's actually just going to walk because she lives super close. And he said, it's okay, she could use the walk. In front of everyone. And
I hope your boyfriend punched him.
Yeah, the thing is with like my guy friends is they'll laugh, but then they'll be like, actually, no, my guy friends at home, if anyone were to say that to me, they'd punch him in the face. Same with my boyfriend. But for those guys, all of them are like, dude, that's messed up. Like, you cannot say that like that. And all of them said they stuck up for me. So they say in the car, but it's so crazy to me that like, even if you're joking, why ever? And especially me, like, like everyone, I make it very clear what I have done, like the advocacy that I do and what I've been through. I just think that that's also like a thing in college of like people commenting on other people's weights. Like there are caddy sorority girls that I have heard make comments about other girls' weight. I'm like, who raised you? I'm like, where did you
Where's
learn?
your mother? Where's your mother?
Where did you learn that it was okay to ever comment on someone's weight like that?
For sure. Yeah, I remember, and like this was actually something that I thought about a lot, like during quarantine too, was like coming out of quarantine and being so paranoid that everyone was going to think I looked bad or like looked different or like whatever. And I remember I went back to work and somebody said, and like she meant it in a nice way, but I had to kind of like, it was the first time I ever stood up for myself in like regards to someone making a comment like that, because she was so out of pocket and like caught me so off guard. She was literally like, I walked in, she was like, ooh, someone got a little thick over quarantine. And like, she meant it in a nice way. And like, she told me about it later and she was like, oh, I'm sorry. She was like, well, I saw you doing at home workouts. And she was like, your butt got big. And I was like, okay, like, but depending on the day, some days I want to hear that and some days I don't. And that was not a day I was trying to hear that. And I just like, so again, I work at Olive Garden. So I was like at the salad thing, like making a little salad, like going to do my job. And she said that I like turned around and like put the tongs in the salad thing. I was like, really? I was like, this is my first social interaction in months. And you're just going to like, what? Why?
Oh, I'm not laughing at you said that. I'm laughing at the fact that had to have, of course, why was that your first social interaction?
I know. I was just like, and I kind of pulled her aside later. I was like, I know you didn't mean it like that. And like, because thick is a compliment from some people, like whatever. And I've always I carry my weight in like my thighs and my butt. I always have. And so I just kind of was like, it's like an insecurity of mine. I was like, just like, and she said it so loud, like, and have you ever worked in a restaurant?
Yes.
Okay. So like, like people, like once you go into the back kitchen, like there's all bets are off. People are like rowdy and like, especially the one that I work at, like we're literally all a family and like everyone's just kind of like rowdy and loud and whatever. Yeah. But like everyone in the alley then is like looking at my butt. They all like turn and look and I was like,
now everyone is looking. Yeah.
I was like, great, thank you. But yeah, she apologized and like, I felt like after that interaction, because I kind of said the same thing. I was like, you don't really need to like talk about anyone's body, like whether they've had an eating disorder or not. But
good
like,
for you.
Yeah. And I just like, I tried to say it nicely, but I do think I was mad. So I don't know if I said it in the nicest way, but I was like, like I'm secure enough in like my recovery where like, yeah, that made me feel upset, but I'm not going to like act on it. But what if you said that to like someone that wasn't, and then they like, went and acted on that and like heard your voice in the back of their mind for like years to come. You know what I mean? Sometimes just don't say it. Like,
I'm proud of you for saying something, because that's also my advice, is to start sticking up for yourself. Like I think a lot of the time girls will take it with a grain of salt if someone makes a comment about themselves, because they, you don't want to seem like a confrontational person. So we'll laugh it off, or we'll be like, oh, like, shut up, but you should tell people like, no, I wish I would have said something to him, the guy who said that to me, because I could have just absolutely ruined his life of all forms of education that I have, of being like, this is a statistic and you can't say things, you know what I mean? Like,
that's my favorite thing.
I wish I would have just said something, but I didn't, because I'm not a confrontational person, and I was hurt. Like it dug deep. But I have really good people in my life that I called, 3 or 4 friends after, that know about what I do, who like support what I do, and I'm like devastated, like I don't know what to do. And because of them, I like just jump right back. But if I hadn't had the tools in the support system that I do, that would have caused a relapse. That's what people like have to realize, that you might mean it in a like playful, harmless way, but commenting on bodies have to stop being seen as like a joke.
I know. I saw something on Instagram over quarantine that was like, when we come out of this, I hope that we stop commenting on people's bodies and start complimenting them on like their mind or like a skill that they have or something like that. And like that was something that really stuck with me too. And it was so ironic because it was literally day one of going back to work after like 4 months. And I was like, am I the only one that learned something in quarantine?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I'm proud of the progress that I think like the eating disorder community has made, but I think there's so much more to do, and that comes with college and like just like even like just friends. I think like it doesn't even have to do with college. It like has to do with early 20s of like the conversations that are commonly had.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I know this episode was supposed to be about like college and alcohol, but it went a bunch of different ways. But like, I like this. I like talking to you about this stuff.
Same. I feel like a lot of people can like learn from it because I guarantee any guy too has experienced something like this in their 20s.
For sure. Yeah. Is there anything else that you like want to add or anything else you want to like cover?
No, I mean, I think that like you asked all the great questions and brought up all the right things in terms of like what comes with college and the drinking aspect. But no, my advice to like anyone is just that you're like some like girls who listen to this are probably still gonna like if they're in college or going to college, you're probably still gonna do this. I understand you learn from your mistakes, but you have to surround yourself by the right people who aren't going to condone this behavior to become like a lifelong behavior. Because I know girls who it wasn't just in college; they're still doing this post college. You know what I mean? And you have to just enjoy yourself, but don't see alcohol as a way to feed into eating disorder behaviors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that was fun.
That was fun. I definitely learned a lot about you too. My favorite is the one drink wonder.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to another week and another episode of the Food for Thought podcast. Like I said at the intro, this is just a little bit of a different style than what you guys are used to. So please DM me, leave a rating, review, and comment on Apple. Just let me know what you guys think of this episode. I think it's really great, but if you guys hate it, let me know so that I can fix it. But yeah, so that's it. That's all I got for you this week. Please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere else so you guys get your podcasts so that you know when a new episode comes out. And I will see you all next week.